It's nice of them to put the warning labels right on the title screen. This is the first time that infamously awful contract developer Micronics is credited in-game. And in total fairness, Shin Satomi Hakken-den shows a bit more technical prowess than Micronics games usually do. Of course, that just means it's one of the worst RPGs on the Famicom, not a contender for the worst RPG on the Famicom. Shin Satomi Hakken-den is based on a film that's known in the US as Legend of the Eight Samurai. It's a reworking of the novel Hakken-den, sometimes known as the Eight Dog Warriors, but with even more magic involved. Personally, I'm not a fan of the film, but it's entirely possible that's because I've only seen the US version. It was a massive hit in Japan, though, and was the highest grossing film there of 1984. The RPG is in the Dragon Quest style, where you wander around a map, go to villages and castles, and fight some random battles. While exploring, you press the B button to bring up a menu, and there you can choose to talk to someone, use items in your inventory, which mainly means equip them, look at your characters to get their status, or use a magic ability. The combat system is really strange, since the very first thing it does is ask you if you want it to be an auto combat. Then it asks for every character that you have in your group if you want them to participate in the battle. If you selected an auto combat, then everyone just attacks over and over again, and you can hit B to end the auto combat if you want to manually control people. Unlike the previous Hakken-den RPG we saw, this one lets you recruit all 8 heroes. They'll walk around behind you on the world map, and can all join in on the fight. At the start of the game, you have to pick out which hero you want to be. There are 8 orbs, each associated with a virtue that the hero represents. I'm not going to bother going into what those virtues are, because that doesn't matter at all in the game. They have no effect on the story, their abilities, or anything else. After that, you're just dropped in the home village of that hero, and it's up to you to figure out what to do. There's no real guidance in the game, but the way that the game is structured, it can be broken down into roughly 6 chapters. First, you recruit 2 additional heroes. Which 2 will join you depends on which character you started with. And for all but 2 of the heroes, recruiting them consists of locating their village, walking up to them and saying hello. One of the other 2 has a guy blocking the way that you have to fight, and the other is a very special case that I'll get to. After you have a party of 3, you have to defeat a mini-boss. Then you can recruit 3 more heroes. Then another quest to defeat a mini-boss. Then you recruit the last 2 heroes. And then finally you can go after the big bad guy. There's one hero that's very different. They're not capable of fighting initially. They have a disease that has to be cured before they can do anything. This is the only character-driven quest in the entire game. And if you select that character as your first hero, you don't get attacked while you're wandering around the world. At least, not until you recruit someone. That lets you go running off to the far end of the game, pick up the endgame equipment, and then start your quest. Of course, if you don't know about this and just happen to select them as your starting character, then you're going to be very confused. Guess who I picked as my starting character for my first attempt? Once you actually have the game underway, of course you've got to do your early game grinding, and the grind here is absolutely brutal. There's no clear divisions on where enemies spawn, and in most cases, if you go 1 square to the left of the starting town, you get attacked by enemies 10 levels too high for you. You start out being able to do about 10 points of damage, and so the enemies that you can actually hurt is a pretty narrow range. At level 1, you're unlikely to be able to beat more than 1 group of enemies per outing, so you'll have to win a fight and then immediately retreat to a town to recover. But you don't get enough money from one fight to pay for the healing that you need because you lost over half your hit points in that fight. I even spent all my starting cash on good armor, and the basic enemies were just tearing into me. If you didn't know that you have to look for these tiny, narrow strips of enemies that you're capable of fighting, then you're just going to get chewed up by the combat system because you'll always be encountering really strong guys. And if you're defeated in combat, then it's an immediate game over. So you can walk out of town, take 2 steps, not be able to run from a fight, and that's it. To save your game, you have to go to a castle, and some characters start nowhere near one of those, so you'll have to run a gauntlet of high-level enemies so that you can save your game and get started. There's also a really infamous bug in Shin Satomi Hakken-den. Sometimes the bosses of the game just don't appear. And if you've encountered that bug, you have to start over. The corruption is in your save file. The comment I kept seeing about this game on Japanese sites is that it feels half-complete. And that's not a bad summary. Why does only one dog warrior have a special quest? Why are there only 3 real dungeons? Why isn't the recruitment more flexible? It really feels like they started out with a decent design, and then cut the development time down to about 1/4 of what they needed. This isn't the worst thing that either Micronics or Toei Animation have produced for the Famicom. It's still not a game that anyone would want to play, though.